It's also been revealed by CNN that Chuck Schumer was behind closed doors begging to keep the government shutdown going until Thanksgiving. And Democrats haven't ruled out another one.
If Democrats cannot get an agreement on Obamacare subsidies, do you rule out shutting down the government again in January?
Don't ask me to assume failure on the effort that we're undertaking. I think we can, we ought to plan for success and then adjust if we don't get it, as you point out.
Not ruling it out there. And then, of course, there are chuckles from the journalists, yet this caused so much pain to Americans.
Right. 43 days, I think it was. And it was a painstaking process. I was flying across the country during this shutdown when flight air traffic controllers hadn't been paid for nearly 2 months. A lot of these people live from paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford to live 2 months without pay. So to see the way in which this game has just turned into something like political football, it's just been pretty appalling. And as for Chuck Schumer, his leadership has been nothing short of disgraceful. He is a complete joke now. No Democrat respects him. That's why 8 peeled away and ended up striking a deal in the first place. And he has lost all authority and all credibility. And it is only a matter of time before he's kicked out. And he should just do the honorable thing at this point and step aside.
It's been revealed that AOC, not Gavin Newsom, had the most effective ad campaign in California's recent Proposition 50 campaign, according to private research by Future Forward. Now, this is, of course, interesting because AOC is no doubt eyeing off a run for either President of the United States or the US Senate. Now, Bill Maher had this to say on AOC.
If she had some deprogramming, she could be such a fantastic candidate.
What do you mean deprogramming?
Well, she just doesn't, she's never going to resonate with people outside of the bubble that she lives in the very, very far left.
Well,
and that, I mean, the New York Times, of all people, the people I've been like squabbling with for the last 7, 8, 10 years, whatever, when I was all about, you know, Democrats have gone too far left, they just put out a huge editorial basically saying exactly what I've been saying.
What, that she's too far left?
Yes, and that the only way the Democrats will ever win again, not that the Republicans are probably going to give it back, is to be more moderate.
James, too far left? I mean, that's breaking news.
I know. And look, AOC, she is actually playing a smart game. She's trying to build bridges with the moderates and the centrist wing of the party. Unfortunately, the thing she said in the past has been essentially treating these people like stormtroopers from Germany. And so you can't be surprised if they're not willing to extend an olive branch back. Now, AOC comes from a district that is something like plus 29 Democrat. She has absolutely zero appeal with moderates, independents, swing voters. And someone like Trump or a GOP candidate will be licking their lips at the prospect of an AOC candidacy for presidency. And I wouldn't be surprised if she does run, and they'll be able to paint her as the face of this extremist party, and they'll run away with it in the election. So I would not be surprised if this happens. I think it's even more likely than we think.
I agree. I think we've got to watch this one very closely. Now, Jack Schlossberg says that Donald Trump's obsession, with his family explains why the president put his cousin, RFK Jr., in cabinet. He was speaking on the weekend on MS Now, and he compared RFK Jr. to a rabid animal Trump has caged, saying that the president has his cousins barking, spreading lies and misinformation. He sounds absolutely charming. Listen to this.
And President Trump, and it's not just my family's legacy, it's generations of Americans and New Yorkers who fought and sacrificed to build this country. And he is dismantling that legacy. He's so obsessed with the Kennedys and the Kennedy name and the Kennedy brand that he caged one and put it in his cabinet, a rabid dog in his cabinet, put a collar on my cousin RFK Jr. and has him there barking, spreading lies and spreading misinformation.
Yeah, it's funny when they're projecting, when I think someone has a little bit of a TD-esque. James, can I get your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think he got a little bit lost in his own metaphor there. I don't know how he struggled to land the plane, but either way, it's a strange paradox that Schlossberg's going for here, because he's clearly trying to lean into the Kennedy name, and yet at the same time, he's trying to present himself as this unique figure. I don't believe that any family or any political dynasty should be getting a leg up in American politics. This is an egalitarian country. It runs against the ideals and founding principles of one of the greatest countries on the earth. And someone like Jack Schlossberg, who thinks they can just slot into a New York political seat, is, I think, an insult to the system, and I hope voters will see through it.
Look, coming up this week, President Trump's going to be hosting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House. This is for high-level talks aimed at strengthening economic and defence ties. What more can we expect from this?
Well, I think, first of all, it's actually just a great thing that this meeting's even happening. Let's not forget with the Biden years that he chose to snub him after the Khashoggi murder. And that resulted in this tripartite effort between China, Iran, and then Russia later on, where you had this much more enmeshing of relations that even resulted in a rapprochement with Iran. So I think Trump is doing exactly the right thing by actually bringing these people to the table and trying to restart relations. I think it's a good thing that he's selling F-35 jets. It may not be in Israel's interest, but America has to act in its own interests. I think that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing.
Look, finally, let's just talk about the UK. We've spoken about it plenty of times before, but I mean, just this year, almost 40,000 people have crossed the English Channel in small inflatable boats. Keir Starmer is on 17% looking at his polling numbers, and now the UK has announced an overhaul of its immigration system to reduce the amount of asylum seekers. Under this new policy, the deportation of illegal migrants will be fast-tracked and refugee status will become temporary. Let's just take a listen to UK Home Secretary Sabana Mahmood.
Unfortunately, I am the one that is regularly called a and told to go back home. It is I who know through my personal experience and that of my constituents just how divisive the issue of asylum has become in our country. I wish it were possible to say that there isn't a problem here, that there's nothing to see and that it is all, in fact, just extremist right-wing talking points. But this system is broken.
James, can I get your thoughts on this, if this is really going to work? Nothing else that Keir Starmer's been able to do has been able to work so far. It's just been getting worse.
Well, it is refreshing to hear a Labour minister talk like that after so many years of denying there was even a problem. But Labour, quite frankly, is dancing to Farage's tune right now. And there's a reason that he's on track to become Britain's next Prime Minister, unless there's a radical change in policy. This new visa restriction program, I mean, it pales in comparison to what really needs to happen. I think it restricts something like 3 countries, or is denying visas to something like 3 countries. You need something much more vast than that. And like I said, they are just in the shadow of reform at the moment. I would love to see the UK turn into a system like Australia's that has some kind of point system. I know you guys have some problems of your own, but whatever we have here, it's far too permissive, and it's setting a really bad example to the rest of Europe as well. So I hope in the best of UK's interest that they can do something about this. But again, who knows with this Labour government.
James Billow, newsroom editor at Unheard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.